Hi, it's Donnee Patrese, and I am back with how to start a novel. So I am here basically to help you work on your novel as well as keep myself accountable so that I can work on my novel as well. And as I work on my novel and go through the many chapters that I'm writing, a lot of things come up. And one of the things that came up to me was how to make a memorable and dynamic character. So one of the things that I normally do is give your characters a more realistic personality. And what I mean by that is I make them relatable so that readers, something that most people can relate to, something that a reader can say, oh yeah, this may be something they've gone through, or this is how they would respond to something, and this is how something they can hold on to with that character. I know I probably say that a lot because I have a habit of saying a lot of things over and over again. But basically, you want to give them something that they can relate to, something that they can hold on to, something that they can see in this character, see themselves in this character, just a little bit. So make this character more realistic. I hope that explains it. But in that same regard, you want to also next give your character a quirk. Give them something that makes them a little off. Because people get stuck on being perfect or being normal, and that's not true. That's not fair, because no human is perfect or normal in a sense. So you want to not necessarily just adhere to the norms of society when you write. You want to give your character a little quirk. If they're clumsy, if they talk too much like me, or if let's say there's a funeral. So going back to, realistic, personalities, most normal people, or people that we would say are normal, would cry at a funeral. Maybe this person has a quirk that when they're upset or nervous, they laugh. Make that happen, because that would make something way more interesting happen in your novel. That adds some excitement, something different to your novel. So give that character a quirk. Make them a little special in some way. So characters need a transformation. When you're working with characters in a novel, how they began that novel is not how they're going to end that novel. And as far as their personalities, their things that they've experienced, it's going to change them. So they need a transformation. They have to suffer. As much as you love them, as much as you like them, they're your babies, they're going to have to suffer in some way. And because suffering is what's going to trigger or be the catalyst for that change that you want to see happen. Somebody has to die that they love. They could be close to dying themselves. It doesn't even have to be that extreme, but it has to be something that makes them be more self-aware. So I hope you understand that, because we're going to move on. Because I'm going to promise you right now that this won't be an extremely long video, but it's something that's very important. So we're going to move on. Give each character a distinct voice. So when I write with multiple different, I say protagonists in a story. I don't just come from one point of view. I do first person, but I don't come from one point of view. I come from multiple different people's points of view. So let's say I have 4 characters. It's going to come from their first person, but it's going to come basically from their angle of the story. And I do this because I just love to do that. I like to give more people's take on a situation. I think that makes my stories more interesting. But if you're going to do that, they have to have their own voice. They have to speak from their own self. Like, they can't all sound the same, because then that would make it boring, and you don't want to bore your readers. And also it takes away from their own personality. They should each have their own separate personality, life experiences, and they can't have that if they all have the same voice. So you want to make sure that you give each character a distinct voice. Also, something that I like to do is play around with their appearance. Don't just have them just the typical long brown hair, 5'5", or 6'2", tall, dark, and handsome. Like you want to give them something a little bit different. So one of my characters in one of my stories, particularly the one that I'm working on now, she has rainbow colored tips in her hair. Like, and this is something that is a little different. It's not necessarily extreme nowadays because a lot of people color their hair, and I've seen rainbow hair everywhere nowadays, but it's just something different. You just don't want to stick to societal norms when you're writing. You want to go outside the box, basically. And I say this a lot. I've said this in other videos. You want to go outside the box when you're looking at the appearance of your characters as well. Another thing is be diverse. Use different races and sexual orientations and ages and, sizes. Like, be very diverse when you're talking about your characters. Because if we're just doing just the same old characters all the time, they don't have anything special about them, they're not going to be dynamic. You want them to have, to fit what society actually is. A society is actually full of different people of different races, of different ages, different sizes. And that's what you want to portray in your stories. This is what makes characters more realistic and more relatable. So it goes all the way back to the beginning. This will make them more relatable to your readers and open you up to a different readership. You won't just be stuck with just this one group of people. It opens you up to different groups of people reading your novels because they see themselves in you. Well, in your characters. They can see themselves in your characters when you make them more diverse. And lastly, give your characters interesting backgrounds. Like, make some interesting stuff happen to them when you write about them. Now, not all of this stuff is going to go in the novel, because when you do character development and you do character background and backstory, this is for you so that when you do dialogue, that you can better express how that person would react to a certain situation. Some of it will go in. The stuff that's needed will go in, but some of the stuff that that's not necessarily needed will stay out. But when you give them those dynamic backgrounds, then and the stuff that's important, you can add it. And then when you do dialogue that people know, like, oh, okay, this is why they would respond to this. So if something happened to a character where they were in the military and something happened, they end up with PTSD, and you can say, okay, you don't necessarily have to say they have PTSD, but you can put in those characteristics that make readers go, hey, they may have PTSD, and it makes for a more dynamic character. Or you can have a character who suffered, like I said, one of my characters suffered from domestic violence, and that made her interact differently with men. And I didn't necessarily say this is going to make her interact differently with men. It's just you can pick up on the way she talks to men versus how she is around women. And you can pick up on that without me actually having to say it. And it makes this character a little bit more well-rounded, more realistic, and more relatable. Okay, so I hope this video wasn't extremely long. It's shorter than most videos I do, but I just this is something important, and I wanted to get that out there, whether it was a long video, short video, but I promised you shorter. So let me get to the important part, and that is subscribe. Make sure you subscribe so that you can get more videos like this and work on your novel. Just tips along the way as you write your novel. So something you can go back to, look at again, and help you as you journey on this exciting journey of writing a novel. Also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm there. You can send me messages. You can ask me questions, things like that. So just search Donnee Patrese, because I am Donnee Patrese on all 3 formats. And check me out on Amazon. Same way, search Donnee Patrese and all my novels should come up. And go ahead and buy those, check those out, see what you think. Again, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.